This is an AQA Psychology GCSE revision video for the Paper 2 topic of Brain and Neuropsychology with a specific focus on the James-Lange theory of emotion. So the James-Lange theory of emotion is a debate, an argument, a theory about what comes first, emotion or arousal, physiological changes or emotion. And so it's a bit similar to the whole what came first, chicken or the egg argument. And so looking at the James-Lange theory, you have to consider when we're scared or threatened or embarrassed, what comes first? That feeling of embarrassment or fear, that emotion, or the things that happen to our body, the physiological changes. So the James-Lange theory, the James-Lange argument, which was put forward by William James and Carl Lange, is that the physical things happen first. Our brain then interprets what has happened physically to our body, and then we experience the emotion. So those three stages are the important things that you need to be able to explain in terms of the James-Lange theory. So looking at that in more detail, it always helps to have an example to support your AO1, to support your knowledge and understanding of this theory. So the event could be tripping up the stairs, like you saw in the previous slide of Joe Biden tripping up the stairs to a plane. That's the event. Naturally, our body becomes aroused, and you know this from the fight or flight response. When we experience a threatening situation, that sympathetic nervous system does kick in, our heart rate increases, our palm gets sweaty, our pupils dilate. So that arousal comes first in this theory. Then our brain interprets all of those changes and goes, hold on, what's happening to my body? What's going on here? Why am I experiencing all these changes in my body? And because the brain is thinking about it, we then impart that emotion. We then start to feel that emotion and go, right, I'm sweating and my hands are getting clammy, so I must be feeling embarrassed. And that's the emotion that we then experience because of the event, because of the arousal from the event. So this theory is, to summarise, physiological arousal first, brain interprets it, emotions are last. When considering how to evaluate the James-Lange theory, there are three things that you can consider to get three good evaluation paragraphs. First of all, is this theory useful? Does it apply to the real world? Does it help us to understand why we experience certain emotions? Secondly, are there arguments that are the opposite, any contradictory or opposing theories? And lastly, is this theory too simplistic? So we're going to look at each of these evaluation points in turn. I'll give you some time to think through those three questions before we look at them in turn. Starting with the usefulness. Emotions do come after arousal. So if someone trips over and falls in public, we do then experience anxiety or embarrassment, which are emotions. And this can lead to people avoiding public situations because that association has been formed with that negative emotion and they don't want to experience it again. So this shows that the James-Lange theory is applicable to real life situations, and you can bring in your knowledge of phobias where people might experience negative emotions after seeing a spider. So you see a spider, your body becomes aroused, and then you know it's because those things are happening because you are scared, because you have that phobia. So this theory is very useful and it applies to the real world. Secondly, you have to consider whether arousal always leads to emotion, because you can become aroused, like when you're on holiday or if it's summer and it's a really hot day, you start to physically sweat. Your hands might get clammy. You have become aroused, but that doesn't mean that you are feeling that emotion. Or likewise, you could be in the gym working out and your heart rate starts to increase. But that does not mean you are feeling any particular emotion. So in terms of how we use that to evaluate, we say that this actually contradicts the James-Lange theory, because we do experience arousal and bodily changes, but we don't get the emotion afterwards. So arousal does not always lead to emotion, as this theory suggests. And then lastly, this theory is too simplistic. So if you have a look at this slide, this one might be very useful for you because you've got all three evaluation points written in a strong format where examiners would be able to award you 5 out of the 9 marks to evaluate this theory if it was a 9-mark question. So Cannon-Bard theory is another theory that contradicts the James-Lange theory, suggesting that the James-Lange theory is too simple, because Cannon-Bard actually say arousal and emotion are two completely separate things, and they can happen at the same time, but they don't have to occur together because they're separate, which is why we sweat during exercise but don't have any emotion at all. So emotion is far more complex than the James-Lange theory suggests. That concludes the end of this video. Thank you for watching. I hope you found it useful.